Welcome to Dukascopy TV. I'm Elaine Stenson, and today I'm joined by John Hancock from the International University in Geneva. Today he's here to discuss economic recovery in the Eurozone. John, you're very welcome. Now, despite economic growth in the UK, Chancellor George Osborne has come out and warned that there's still a long way to go. What do you think?
Well, I think he's probably right to warn of a cautious optimism, or to wait to see how this unfolds. I mean, if you were in Britain over the last few years, things couldn't have got much worse. So the signs that they're getting a little bit better, and tentatively better, is positive. But we're not at the point yet of what the new governor of the Bank of England has called the escape velocity, you know, the level of growth where you can really say that the recovery has now taken hold and it's going to project forward. Having said that, it's good news.
It is. And also in Spain, we're hearing that the unemployment rate there is down for the first time in 2 years. This is good news for Spain, especially as they've had such a major problem. Do you think this is a sign of things to come, or do you think this is a once-off?
Again, you know, when you start putting the bits of the picture together, the pieces of the puzzle together, Britain's looking up marginally, Germany, business confidence is up, Spain, unemployment is slightly down, even in France there are some signs of tentative recovery. I think overall the picture is quite good, and I guess we shouldn't be completely surprised by this, although we've been so used to the pessimism and the gloom and doom stories out of Europe that I think everyone's slightly shocked that things could get better. In terms of the recovery, we've had almost 4 years of either no growth or negative growth in the Eurozone. We've had a series of sovereign debt crises. We've had governments rise and fall. It's all been bad news. Meanwhile, underneath it all, the restructuring's taken place. I mean, there are massive changes taking place in Spain, starting with, for example, its exports are now doing remarkably well in the Eurozone, partly because they've undertaken this very, very painful domestic labor market reform and public sector reform. So one of the interesting stories coming out of the Eurozone is this debate about austerity versus stimulus spending. I mean, a year ago or even 6 months ago, we'd look at the US and say, well, obviously stimulus worked and austerity failed. I'm not so sure as Europe recovers the picture's that stark. And maybe both debates were essentially missing the point that things had to change. There had to be this deeper restructuring going on.
Okay, and today we're hearing that China's government has unveiled some pro-growth policies as the economy stalls. Is this enough for the world's second largest economy?
Well, China is, in a sense, doing what Europe and the United States and every economy has had to do as a result of this great recession. It's undergoing its own process of domestic reform. It's trying to wean itself off of this, very dominant emphasis on exports, export-led growth, this huge dependency on reinvestment in the economy, and some would say excessive fixed investment. A lot of emphasis on weaning the banking sector off of export-oriented growth to consumer-led growth. So it's going through its own restructuring process. Maybe we shouldn't be so worried about signs of slowing growth. Maybe we should actually be saying, well, policymakers in China said they were going to try to change course, that the economy needed to cool down and needed to change direction, and that's precisely what we're seeing. The fact that the United States is looking marginally better now, and even Europe is showing tentative signs of recovery, is probably good news for China, because it can continue to rely on at least the rest of the world being somewhat buoyant as it undergoes its own domestic reforms.
So you don't think that in the Eurozone we should be worried about China's situation right now?
I think we all have to be worried. I mean, China is the world's second largest economy. I mean, what happens in Spain is a bad news or a good news regional story. What happens in China is a bad news or a good news global story. And we all have to be very concerned with what happens in China. We all have to hope that the Chinese authorities know what they're doing, and that this change of tack is going to be undertaken as smoothly and seamlessly as possible, bearing in mind it's never painless. I mean, that's the problem with capitalism. You change, you get the gain, but you also get the pain. Every recession It's like the old, to borrow a euphemism, every recession is painful, but each recession is painful in its own way. We're experiencing the sort of 2013 version of painful recession. Europe's lived through it. Maybe China has to go through its own bout of pain.
John, thanks for that, and thanks for joining me here today. And that's all from the studio right now, but do check back for more coming up later. Bye for now.